I have the privilege today to announce or introduce our speaker. And I love this man. Every time he comes, I walk on water when he's done. He's a Buddhist monk, and he works down in Los Angeles, and he's involved in so many programs to help youth, to let them know that they're not alone and that there's something greater than they are in this universe. And they can change their lives with just one thought, one feeling, one step. So it is my honor and my privilege to introduce Reverend Kusala Bhikshu.
Good to see you. Thank you. Thank you. Well, I'm happy to be here. What a beautiful day we have today. I'd like to start off with a little humor. Did you hear about the Buddhist coroner in LA who got fired? He kept writing the cause of death as birth. So I pulled out the ukulele today, and I've been practicing. You know, I'm looking at the world and I'm getting nostalgic because nothing changes. Have you noticed that? You know, back in the 60s, we had just crazy conventions, political conventions. Have them today. You know? Now we have Black Lives Matter. Back then it was Black Panthers. We had the Cold War, and Russia was our biggest threat. Fascinating. And now we come into 2016, and stuff hasn't changed, only the players. So I remembered this song from the 60s. It's called If I Had a Hammer. You know, and being a folk guy as well. And so I thought I'd give you my version today. If I had a hammer, I'd hammer in the morning. Oh, I'd hammer in the evening, all over this land. Hammer out the danger, oh, I'd hammer out the warning. Hammer out the love between my brothers and my sisters, all over this land. If I had a bell, oh, I'd ring it in the morning, in the evening, all over this land. Ring out the warning, ring out the danger. I'd ring about the love between my brothers and my sisters, all over this land. If I had a song, I'd sing it in the morning, in the evening, all over this land. Sing about the danger, oh, I'd sing out the warning. Sing about the love between my brothers and my sisters, all over this land. I've got a hammer, I've got a bell, I've got a song to sing all over this land. Hammer out the danger, ring out the warning. Sing about the love between my brothers and my sisters, all over this land. So I'm going to talk about something sort of complicated today, but I'm going to make it simple. As simple as it can make it. It's called the Six Perfections. It's found in Mahayana Buddhism. It's the path to enlightenment. It's how to get there in 6 sort of easy steps. Now, the first step is generosity. Generosity. And you know what? It is magical. You have no idea until you find your practice of generosity on how it will change the world and how it will change you. Now, starting just after the first of the year, Johnny Carson is on every night. If you have antenna TV like I do, 5.2. And it's so much fun to go and look at all those old programs. And the other night they had a guy that does dominoes, 8,000 dominoes. And he had them set up all over the stage. And they went down ramps and they made visual images. Johnny's name came out of the dominoes. And he went over and he pushed that first domino. And everything else just sort of came into place. It just sort of happened. And that's how generosity works. We have to push the domino, that first domino. And it leads to so many things you have no idea how it can change your life. Now, it took me time. I was in my 50s. And the first cat showed up. And then the second cat showed up. And it just continued. At one time, we had 14 homeless cats in our backyard. Yes. My opportunity to practice generosity. It was like $150 a month, but compared to a human, that's nothing. And they were such wonderful teachers. They'd all line up in the morning for their breakfast, and I'd pull out the little bowls, and each one had a certain place to sit, so he or she didn't interfere with the other ones. And I'd feed them, and then some wanted seconds, and I'd give seconds, you know? And then they would all just leave. They wouldn't say thank you. They wouldn't give me a high paw. They would just leave, and I thought, this is the perfect practice of generosity. Because sometimes if we practice generosity, we expect something in return. Businessman's generosity. But in this case, there was nothing to get in return other than poop. So every morning you were cleaning up what you just fed them in the afternoon, and you just go, wow, okay. How life works. Generosity will change your life. Generosity will make things happen in your life that you can't imagine. But the deal is you can't be attached to your generosity. You have to do it, and you have to let it go, and expect nothing in return, and you get everything in return. My life dramatically changed when I started feeding the cats. And I tell people that, and they look at me, and they think I'm a little nuts. You know, it's like the old cat guy, you know? And I go into Food for Less with my shopping cart, and I get a case of this and a case of that and some dry food and then some Hostess Twinkies, and life is good, you know? So number one, if you want to get enlightened, you start with generosity. You start practicing. And I tell you what, LA County, we have so many opportunities to practice generosity. There are a lot of people who need it, but don't expect them to say thank you. And that's the best thing they could do for you, is not say thank you. The next step is morality. Whoa, how boring is that? You know, I want to share something with you. I am now a singer-songwriter. I know it's hard to believe, but I have a song that will be published in a book in 2017 on Buddhism and meditation for children. Wow. I am just so lucky. And I went to CD Baby and I got it registered, and you can get it on iTunes, and it was a lot of fun because my birth name is Carl. So we have written by Carl, performed by Kusala. I'm becoming more schizophrenic than I thought I ever would. So I like this. It's quick and it's short, and you may have heard it before, but I'd like to give you an opportunity to hear it without spending 99 cents. I will practice not to take life, practice not to take life, practice not to take life. I will practice every day. I will practice not to take stuff, practice not to take stuff, practice not to take stuff. I will practice every day. I will practice loving kindness, practice loving kindness, practice loving kindness. I will practice every day. I will practice not to tell lies, practice not to tell lies, practice not to tell lies. I will practice every day. I will practice not to get high, practice not to get high, practice not to get high. I will practice every day. I take refuge in the Buddha, refuge in the Dharma, refuge in the Sangha. I take refuge every day. All right. So I'm really happy that that's going to be made available to children and parents so they can reflect on how to be skillful, how to live in harmony with other human beings. It is so hard to do. And not killing and not stealing, they invite you to live next door. Please, we want you to be our neighbor because you're practicing the 5 precepts. And it will become the foundation of your meditation practice. It will allow you to be anchored in something that benefits everyone, yourself included. So the second step is morality, specifically the 5 precepts of a Buddhist. Now we come to one of the most difficult. Oh yes. Patience. Patience. The older I get, the less patience I have. I don't have that much time left. I got things to do, people to see. You know, and I'm just working really hard to get it all wrapped up. I just bought How to Make a Will. It's 300 pages. Will I live long enough to read the whole thing? I don't know. You know? But it's sort of fun to think who you get to give all your stuff to. You know? And will they really appreciate it? No. But you give it to them anyway. So patience. 110 going to the 405. There are like 10,000 cars. It's Saturday afternoon. Where the heck are they all going? Really? They're all out there with me? And now they're stopping and starting and distracted driving, cell phones, talking to people sitting next to them. I'm thinking, I'll never get there on time. I got places to go. I'm not going to get there on time. And I start feeling hatred and anger, and I have no patience at all. It bothered me. I'm supposed to have that. That's one of the things I'm supposed to have, patience. Why don't I have patience? Because I think the world should be different than it is. I think I should be allowed to have my own lane. But they never offered. So now I am stuck. And what do I do first? I forgive. I forgive. I forgive all those jerks on the road with me. The ones on the left, the ones on the right, the ones in front, the ones in back. I forgive you for being in my way. And I take a breath. And now I feel the first little bits of patience starting to ebb and flow through my consciousness. It's the present moment, after all. There's no future or past. There's no place to go, no one to be, nothing to do. Why am I so aggravated and hateful? Because I think I exist in a specific way. So now, after forgiving everybody else on the freeway, I forgive myself for thinking it should be different than it is. Thinking I want it to be different than it is. It'll never happen. It just is. It's my job to embrace the isness of the present moment. And once that occurs, I have acceptance. I have a profound sense of acceptance. Everything is just the way it's supposed to be, and my body relaxes, and my consciousness feels blissful, and I just relax. Okay, I'll get there when I'm supposed to get there. I know they said 11 o'clock, but sometimes I'm early, sometimes I'm late. I'm never on time. I'll just relax into that present moment. And it works. It works. So every time I get on the freeway, I say to myself, this is my chance to practice. How lucky am I to be living in Los Angeles? Look at all the opportunities I have to practice. Even at Food for Less, standing in line, waiting to purchase my cat food and Twinkies, there's always something wrong with the line people. You know, they don't have the right change, they can't find their credit card, do you take checks, da-da-da-da-da. They have 3 generations. The grandparents, the parents, and the kids all standing together to purchase 1 carton of milk. And there I am in this crowd. So I start directing the line. You know, you can go a little bit faster. You don't have to look at your cell phone. Come on, we got things to do. And they just sort of look at me like this old guy is just raving mad. And then I say to myself, I don't want to be the line policeman. I'm changing lines before they all hate me. So patience is a tough one. Patience takes a long time, but we have time to practice. Now we come to something that I find really interesting because I'm going to be 67 in April. I'm really looking forward to that. You know, number one, I made it. And number two, I'm becoming less and less responsible for my speech and action. So it works out well. But I also find that my energy seems to ebb and flow. It's not as it used to be. When I was young, I seemed to have endless energy. And I had all these plans and hopes for the future. And I worked really hard at trying to make them happen. But now I just want to get up in the morning. You know, feed the cats, feed myself, check my Facebook. That's pretty much all I want to do. And then take a nap. By then it's 11. You know? But there's another kind of energy that's important on the spiritual path. It's a spiritual energy. And we can manifest it. It is important to manifest. One of the characteristics of this energy is persistence. Persistence is an energy all in itself, that we don't give up. We keep doing what we do until the door of opportunity opens. We don't know when it's going to open or if we'll even see it, but we're persistent. We have a vision, we have a hope. But there's also the energy of courage, which is really important on the spiritual path, because you're going to come up against some stuff you have no idea ever existed. A lot of it is conscious, but some of it's physical. Some of it is your friends and relatives telling you that you're nuts and crazy and why waste your time. Do something with your time that's useful. Get a video game. And yet you know that you're sitting in meditation and you're reading the sutras or your spiritual texts and you're working out all the issues that are necessary to work out so you can go to the next place. You know that's important, and it takes courage when nobody else is on your team, except maybe the Buddha, to go forward and say, okay, and that's the energy, the spiritual energy that's necessary to make this stuff happen, to make this path work for you, to come to a sense of realization that you've always been there. Nothing changed. It's like all of us sitting here today having the intention and the wish and the hope to be in Simi Valley. And now the person next to you said, you've been there. You are there. This is it. And you look around and you say, this is it. And spiritual paths are sort of like that too. When you get there, you might say to yourself, this is it? This is what I worked my whole life for? This is it? This present moment experience of chopping wood and carrying water? This is what I worked so hard to achieve? Yes, it is. It's extraordinarily ordinary. It's magical. So we want the spiritual energy necessary to continue our journey, to not get sidetracked or distracted or talked out of it. Meditation. We did a little bit of that today. Meditation. This is the fifth perfection. But we're specific here in Buddhism. It's concentration meditation. It's samatha meditation. It's not mindfulness. It's samatha. It's going into a deep state of one-pointedness, coming to a place of choiceless awareness, where there's no past, there's no future, and there's no you. It's just simply your object of meditation, which could be the breath or a mantra or some other technique. But at that point, that's the only thing that exists for you in this one-pointedness. And why is that important? Because in order to realize our enlightenment, we have to be one-pointed. We have to be on that path. And when we hit the fork in the road, we know which way to go. We are so focused. And we might have good days and bad days, and we might have a lot of money and no money, and yet we're still focused. That's what we're going to do. This is the lifetime. I'm going to do it. So every time we go into these deep states of reflection or meditation or one-pointedness, it gives us a sense of being in the right place at the right time, which is the present moment, where everything happens. I was commenting as I came through the door today. I'm back again for the first time. Every time I come here, it's always the first time. Every time I get in my car, it's always the first time. Every time I get on the freeway, it's always the first time. Now, you may think that's a bit odd, but think how magical your life would be if it's always the first time. And as I get older, I don't remember people like I used to. It's always the first time. Nice to see you again. How are you for the first time? Oh, I'm fine, thank you. Now we come to the wisdom, number 6, the wisdom that will allow us to achieve enlightenment. It's not intellectual wisdom, it's not book reading, it's not even a kind of wisdom you may be familiar with or comfortable with. It's the wisdom of emptiness. Holy moly. Empty of what? Empty of independent existence. None of us exist in the way we think we do. We are not separate. We do not live alone. We are always interconnected and interdependent with everything all the time. The illusion of separateness allows us to live in this very complicated world. We need to pull ourselves away from the fabric of reality and stand independent from that and look upon it as not being us. Now that may sound rather odd, but if you were one with the door, you would never leave. Because you couldn't find it. The door would be you, and you'd be the door, and you say, how do I get out of here? And they'd say, the door, and you go, well, I am the door. No, I'm still here. So we have to be separate from that darn door, and we have to be separate from the car so we can drive it, and we have to be separate from a wife or husband so we can relate to it and have a relationship, and we have to be separate from all the things in our life so we could use them to our advantage. But what this separateness does is it gives us a sense of suffering. We're never really connected to anything intimately. It's never really us. It's always them and us. And it's a little sad. It's a little sad. So Buddhism says, yeah, it is sad up until the time you become everything and everything becomes you, and that's the wisdom necessary for liberation. That's the wisdom necessary to be free. To be free. But people do not want to be free. I have asked people, do you want to be free? Would you like nirvana today? No, not today. You know, I just met this new girl, and I'd like to get to know her a little bit better before I'm free. Or there's this really cool car that I want to buy, but once I buy this car, then I'll be free. Then I'll choose nirvana. But there's always something else to take that place, and always something else. And it takes great courage and great energy and all the other factors to actually be free. To be free. And then you might say to yourself, but free from what? What am I supposed to be free from? According to Buddhism, there's only one thing you're supposed to be free from, and that is suffering. I want to be free from suffering because I have lived 100,000, 100 million lifetimes already. I can't remember them, but I've buried mothers and fathers and uncles and aunts. I've buried all my siblings. I've buried my own children time and time again because everything that's born, as the LA coroner said, has to die. And we only have to die because we're born. And if we can figure out how not to be born, we never have to die again. And nirvana is unborn and undying. So if I can achieve nirvana and exist because of nirvana rather than birth, I will never have to die again. I can end my suffering in this very moment. But this is a hard sell because the roller coaster ride of life is exciting. All the ups and downs, man, how could you pass that up? I tell you what, at 67, it's getting easier to pass up. I don't want to get on the roller coaster again. It makes my stomach upset and my mind confused. Just give me this nice balance. Whoa, just this place of balance, which is always in the middle. You're not stuck on the left or the right. You're just in the middle. You don't have too many opinions because those always suggest you are on the right or the left. You don't have too many preferences because those are always on the right or the left. You don't have too many wishes for the future because there is no future. You don't have regrets for the past because all the people that lived your past are dead. They do not exist any longer. Give them a memorial service and wish them well. Free yourself from the past. Free yourself from the attachment to the future. Be here now, as Ram Dass would say, and you can be free. Free from suffering. So these 6 perfections allow us to have a path, allow us to have reference points along the way, to sort of see how we're doing, but they're not linear. As you know, the spiritual path is not linear. It just always happens now. And we try to validate it, we try to measure it. You can't do it. It doesn't work. We're not talking about mind, we're talking about heart. You can't measure your heart. You can only feel it. You can measure your intellect. They have IQ tests, but just because somebody's really smart doesn't make them really wise. But the heart, that's the place. That's where the work is done. And the only way to get to that heart is to look on the inside, not the outside. The outside is what we use to have a better life as a separate human being who suffers. and wishes things were different. But the heart and looking inside gives us our refuge, a place where we can always find peace and happiness. Thank you for listening today. I hope I didn't freak you out. You know? So Andy said, be sure and bring your harmonica, because people always get bummed out when they hear you talking. Let's do some blues.
Yeah, now we got the blues. Let's play the blues.
Let's play the blues and feel them.
All right.
Okay. So here we go. A little blues in the key of G.